It's no surprise that pretty much every Nintendo fan was expecting a Nintendo Direct in January to kick off 2019. And if we look back through the history of Nintendo Directs, it makes sense why people thought this, because there pretty much is always a Nintendo Direct in January. But what if I told you that maybe a January Direct wasn't really needed this year? If you take a second and think about all of the Nintendo Switch games that have already been announced, we already know a good portion of what is expected to come out this year, which is something that Nintendo fans haven't really had the privilege of knowing in years past. However, this isn't to say that I don't think we will be getting a Nintendo Direct anytime soon. My theory is that we will see the next Nintendo Direct somewhere in the time frame of mid-February to early March, and I have two reasons for believing this. Well, I had to. My first reason was the fact that we hadn't yet received a release date for the Piranha Plant DLC, but I kid you not, the very same day that I'm writing this script, January 29th, 2019, Nintendo announced that Piranha Plant is literally available right now, so scratch that. But in a way, this kind of solidifies my prediction that we won't be getting a Nintendo Direct until mid-February to early March, because now, the main reason that had me leaning towards a mid-February Direct, which was the Piranha Plant DLC, is no longer part of the equation, so now that makes a Nintendo Direct closer to early March seem more realistic. Regardless, my main reason for thinking all of this is because back on January 8th, Nintendo used social media such as Twitter to make announcements for a handful of games releasing early this year, such as a port of Dragon's Dogma to the Switch, a new trailer for No More Heroes Travis Strikes Again, a new trailer and the release date for Yoshi's Crafted World, which is coming out on March 29th, and the release date for Kirby's Extra Epic Yarn on the 3DS, which is coming out March 8th. Then, on January 10th, Nintendo tweeted the release dates for the Final Fantasy X and X-2 HD collection, and the Final Fantasy XII Remaster, which will both be coming to the Switch in April. And on the same day, they also tweeted out a picture of Professor Egad killing Luigi with a flamethrower. On January 15th, we saw the announcement of 3 classic 3DS games receiving a price drop and joining the Nintendo Selects lineup. And now finally, on January 29th, we have the release date of the Piranha Plant DLC. Excluding these 3DS games, everything that Nintendo announced on Twitter over the course of January 2019 are games that we already knew were coming out, but we did not have a release date for, which is one of the main reasons why I believe that Nintendo did not produce a Nintendo Direct in January. They simply didn't want to waste our time by giving us a bunch of release dates for games that we already knew were coming soon anyway. Now, this is all just speculation, of course, but if Nintendo were to have their usual beginning of the year Direct in early March instead of January, it may give them more of a reason to announce new games, or at least show us footage of games that have already been announced, but maybe we haven't seen footage of yet. So, with all of that being said, let's get into what I expect and what I hope to see in the first Nintendo Direct of 2019. First off, it's worth mentioning that we haven't had a regular old Nintendo Direct since September 13th of 2018. When I say regular, I mean a Nintendo Direct that covers a variety of announcements instead of just focusing on one game, like the Smash Direct that we had last November. And regular Nintendo Directs almost always start off with an announcement of a brand new game, or a trailer for a game that we have not yet seen any gameplay footage of. So my first prediction is that the Nintendo Direct will start off with a trailer of something that we haven't seen before, like how the E3 2018 Direct went right into footage of Daemon X Machina, and the September Direct kicked things off with the announcement trailer for Luigi's Mansion 3. I have no idea what this new game will be, of course, but like I said, it might not even be footage of a completely new game. We might get our first look at Animal Crossing for the Switch, or maybe Bayonetta 3, or hey, maybe even Pikmin 4. I really hope it's Pikmin 4, but I'll get into my wish list of stuff that I'd like to see after I talk about what I actually expect to see. But after we see whatever big new Switch game they decide to start the show with, they will probably go into some smaller announcements and updates on existing games. And since Nintendo has for some reason deemed March of 2019 Yarn Month, I'm sure that there will be some new trailers for Kirby's Extra Epic Yarn and Yoshi's Crafted World. Maybe even a longer segment focusing on Yoshi, because that's Nintendo's first big Switch game of the year that isn't a port so far. After the Yarn segment, or maybe even before the Yarn segment, I'm not really sure exactly where it'll be, but somewhere around there, I expect there to be maybe a couple of small 3DS game announcements like what we saw in the September Direct, when we first saw WarioWare Gold, Luigi's Mansion 3DS, and the Bowser's Inside Story remake all for the first time. And no matter what they announce for the 3DS, we're all just going to say, why aren't these coming to the Switch? And then we're all just going to buy the games anyway, so it doesn't matter. After that, I expect things to be Switch-oriented again, with a new trailer for Fire Emblem Three Houses almost certainly, as that is one of the only Switch games that was specifically slated for Spring 2019 and not just TBA 2019. Another title that I'm almost 100% sure we'll see more gameplay of is Luigi's Mansion 3. This is one of the few Switch games that we've actually seen gameplay of on the very same day that it was announced. Hopefully this means that it's further along in development than some of us initially expected. I know that the more realistic expectation is for Luigi's Mansion 3 to be released in October just in time for Halloween. But honestly, I wouldn't be too surprised if we saw it sooner. Maybe midsummer, but it depends on what else is announced because Nintendo generally likes to have one big Switch release per month, which is a pattern that they've been sticking pretty closely to ever since the Switch first came out. Another game scheduled for release sometime in 2019 is Daemon X Machina. I feel like a lot of people have either completely forgotten about this game or just don't care because it's a new IP and not a game in an existing franchise. But I think that Daemon X Machina looks like it'll be a lot of fun to play. The visual style is very unique and colorful, which is a nice contrast to the seemingly barren and war-torn world that the game appears to be set in. We've seen a decent amount of gameplay for this title already, so my prediction is that we may see a more story-focused trailer that maybe shows off new gameplay mechanics and possibly a release window. As for games that we haven't seen gameplay of, such as Animal Crossing and Bayonetta 3, I'm honestly not too sure if this is the Nintendo Direct where we'll finally see them. They both kind of feel like bigger games that would be better suited receiving a more grand reveal at E3 in June. But at the same time, Nintendo doesn't really make such a big deal out of E3 anymore. However, if one of these two games finally gets gameplay shown, my bet is on Animal Crossing. Honestly, my only reason for thinking that is because Animal Crossing New Leaf came out in July in the West. Even though the first three Animal Crossing games came to the West in late third quarter and fourth quarter of their release years, I still feel like summer is a really good time to release an Animal Crossing game because that's when most people, such as students, have a lot of free time to spend customizing their virtual homes. The final big Switch game that we know is still scheduled for this year is the Untitled new Pokemon games, and I'm fairly sure that we won't see them in the upcoming Nintendo Direct. Pokemon games are usually announced in late spring or early summer right before E3. I'd love to be proven wrong on this one, but if we do by any chance get any news on the new Pokemon games, it'll most likely be just a confirmation that they're still being made and they're still on schedule. Now with all of those confirmed games out of the way, let's get into some crazy stuff that I just think would be really cool to see. Okay, cool thing number one. I really want Nintendo to make a new, good Paper Mario game. The first two Paper Mario games are two of my favorite games ever, and it physically hurts me to see Nintendo dumbing down this series with each release. Many fans have been saying that they would be happy with a remaster of Paper Mario The Thousand Year Door, but I would only be okay with that if they also announced that they were making a proper sequel to Thousand Year Door, because I have a GameCube and a perfectly fine copy of Paper Mario The Thousand Year Door. So don't waste my time with trying to make me pay for the same game twice. Show us that you can make a good Paper Mario game again. Then, if you want to get newcomers caught up on the series, re-release the first two games on the Switch to hold us over. On the topic of Mario RPGs, I think that it's finally time that the Mario & Luigi series finally make the jump to the Switch in full 3D. If this ever happens, I would love to see the game take place in an entirely new kingdom, like how the first Mario & Luigi game saw the brothers making their way through the Bean Bean Kingdom. As long as it isn't as boring as Mario & Luigi Paper Jam, I think I'll be happy. Oh, and one last Mario related thing before I move on. I would absolutely love to see a new mainline Mario game. I know that Mario Odyssey only came out less than 2 years ago, but I need more. I would be happy if they made DLC for Mario Odyssey. I'd gladly pay $20 for at least 3 to 4 new kingdoms to explore. But hey, if the team has plenty more ideas that didn't make it into Mario Odyssey, I'd gladly wait another year for a Mario Odyssey sequel. Okay, I'm pretty sure I'm done talking about Mario for now. So you know what else I'd really like to see come to the Switch? No, not a Mario Galaxy HD collection. Well, okay, I actually would really like to see that. but I was actually going to say Pikmin. Now, I know that it's apparently been confirmed that Pikmin 4 has been in development for a while now, but I'm really starting to believe that Miyamoto was just talking about Hey Pikmin in that famous interview where he said the development on the latest Pikmin game was almost complete. But I'm going to be honest with you all, Hey Pikmin is not a good game. So even though Pikmin 4 might not have been in development for as long as many of us once thought, I still believe that it is being worked on for the Switch, and we will probably see it at some point in the near future. Speaking of Nintendo franchises that died with a 2D platformer spin-off on the 3DS, it's Chibi Robo. Dear Nintendo, please make a new Chibi Robo game that is a cool 3D platformer like the first game on the GameCube. Seriously, that first Chibi Robo game is so good. I just want to be a small robot who cleans a big house and makes humans happy by listening to their personal problems. If there's one thing that I hope Nintendo hears from their fans, it's to please stop ruining your most unique franchises by simplifying them into bland 2D platformers and sticker games. One Nintendo franchise that we haven't seen in a very long time is Golden Sun. It has been almost a decade since Golden Sun Dark Dawn came out on the DS, which has left fans wondering if and when we'll see a continuation of the series. If we do finally get a new Golden Sun game announced in this Nintendo Direct, I would love to see it on the Switch, but it honestly wouldn't surprise me too much if it were one of the smaller 3DS games announced at the beginning of the Nintendo Direct. That is, if we get any 3DS game announcements at all. But Nintendo still seems to be keeping the 3DS alive, so we'll see. We already know that a new big Zelda game is in the works, as we've seen multiple job listings for game developers to help work on the new project. So in the meantime, I think it would be nice to see the return of Zelda in another form to hold fans over while they wait for more info on the new big Zelda title. There were rumors of a Skyward Sword remaster heading to Switch, but Nintendo themselves debunked this. I could still see this happening, and I wouldn't be opposed to it. However, I think that HD remasters of Ocarina of Time and Majora's Mask would be nice to see, as they are more deserving of a graphical upgrade. But what I think would be even cooler is a remake of a 2D Zelda game like Link's Awakening, or even a direct sequel like A Link Between Worlds was to A Link to the Past. Either way, I'd be happy to see anything Zelda related coming to the Switch anytime soon. Well, that's about all I have for now, but I've got one more absolutely insane prediction that I know would probably never ever happen, especially in this fashion. But before I go, picture this: the Mother Trilogy remastered for the Switch in claymation, available right now.